What were you arguing about along the way? What were you arguing about along the way from church last Sunday all the way to today, this morning, or sometime in between? Maybe at the store, or at home, or at work, or at school, or with family or friends or someone else. What were you arguing about along the way? Today in James we hear, where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every foul practice. This sounds a lot like the politicians and the media and their feeding frenzy that they have, and where jealousy and selfish ambition are in overdrive. We often hear and often join in with it also daily about our daily COVID discussions and Afghanistan and all the different aspects of each, and the past and present and future president, and the midterm elections and vaccines and masks and conflicts and division and how to live and how to die and everything in between. We're filled with arguments. And especially in the world today, we see this conflict just gnawing and dividing, which is not the healthy way to argue. Arguing can be good. There can be really good results, because part of an argument is coming to and reaching at least some knowledge about what we're arguing about, rather than hatred and anger and conflict and division. We are called to live in that way. What were you arguing about on the way? I can add myself to the list of the media and the politicians. As you know, I also am not free from the arguments and the thoughts and the ideas and the jealous and selfish ambitions. We're human. But we can't blame it on our humanness. We must all take responsibility for all of our actions and what we do and what we say. And we have that free choice to do so. And, you know, it's just been since last Sunday that we heard Jesus tell us, "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." It was just last Sunday we heard that, and yet this week I go out and do some of those things once again. Selfish ambitions, jealousy, arguing, this and that. Most of us fall into that. So in that message last Sunday also, I even got the message of the Good Shepherd asking me to come and follow me, and I will give you life. And yet I still fail sometimes. I think we all do sometimes. We look at our world, we do many times. And as we look at our way to come up with solutions, we certainly do there too, because instead of uniting together and working things out, we divide ourselves in total division. That's where we're at right now. And we're going nowhere fast. And that's good for some. They love that, when we can be divided and fall away from all of our principles and the way that we're supposed to live. You can sure tell that we are human and the choices that we make. But we do have those choices. James puts it in writing very well for us today. Wisdom from above is first of all pure. Then it's peaceable and gentle and compliant and full of mercy and good fruit and consistent and sincere. We can even argue, as long as we do it in the right way. Argument, once again, is good. My wife and I, we have our arguments. They're not hostile arguments. They're not the kind of arguments where we begin to hate each other. But we have differences, or there's conflicts that come up. We all have them. Families have them. That's what we learn how to do in family, is to work out our conflicts. We don't always take the easy way out. No, we work them out and do our best. That's what we're called to do. So as I hear these words, I know that gentle and compliant and full of mercy is right on, but then I fall back and let the knuckleheads know the right way, my way or the highway. This brings us back to the disciples and ourselves as the disciples on the way argued about who was the greatest. So, Jesus is telling us once again this week how to live another way, a better way, the right way. And he tells us, as he told them, if anyone wishes to be first, he shall be last and servant of all. That's a hard one. Most of us want to be first. Most of us have those jealousies and selfish ambitions. But he calls us to be last or least and servant of all. So I ask myself, how can I be servant of all? How can I serve all? And St. Teresa gives a good answer to that. St. Teresa of Avila, one of the doctors of the church, the writer of the Interior Castle, the different levels of holiness to strive for. She tells us, but let's see, no, I got the wrong St. Teresa here. This is St. Teresa. Oh, come on. Okay, we all know St. Teresa. She was just canonized from India. She says that we take care of the person in front of us. Sorry about that. I told him wrong last night. My memory. So anyway, yeah, the person in front of you, that's who we serve. The person in front of you, one at a time. And how can we serve all? I mean, the world is filled with people. How can we serve all, as Jesus asks us to do? We serve all one at a time, beginning with you and you and you and you, everyone, whoever we happen to meet or whoever has that need. One at a time, we do it. But you know, it's not just me doing the serving. It's each one of you also, if you're following what Jesus asks us all to do, to serve one another. So we get it all done, don't we? All get served in that way. Not only in this community, but each community in each state, in the United States, and in all the countries throughout the whole world. Things do get done. But in order for things to be done, Jesus tells us how this happens too. And he picks up that little child. He picks up that little child. And he says that they are so special. And you know, back in Palestine, children were nobodies. They were regarded like slaves and women. They didn't matter. They didn't count. But Jesus picked up that little child. He paid attention to that little child. And you know, a little child, especially a little infant, and I think I saw a little infant in here that somebody had swaddled. Yeah, right there, we got one. Okay, so we've got one. That little child depends on mom and dad for everything. Without mom and dad, that child could not live. It wouldn't have any food. It wouldn't have shelter. It wouldn't have warmth. It wouldn't have love. Everything. That child depends on everything. If mom and dad would just put it in a room and just leave and no one else around, that little child could not survive. And Jesus wants us to be just like that little child. He wants us to depend on God. And when we can depend on God, we can put away our jealous ambitions and our jealousies and all those negative things and put on all the good things that James has been telling us about. And he's talking about, actually, what he's trying to explain what Jesus has talked about to us, about serving one another, about being the least of all and reaching out to one another. . He shows us how to live our life every day, from birth until death, so that we can have eternal life with him in heaven. And he calls us to follow him and be servant of all. So what does it take to be a servant of all? Be a servant of all is to be a catechist, teaching our children and sharing our faith, teaching our adults, and sharing our faith with adults. Today, this is Catechetical Sunday, and our catechists will receive a special blessing today for their servanthood. To be a servant of all is to promote the dignity of human life from womb to tomb, just as our pro-life committee does here. To be a servant of all is to be a spouse, to be a good mom and dad, a good brother and sister, a good grandparent or great-grandparent, a good uncle and aunt, a good cousin and nephew, a good friend, someone who cares and helps each other and communicates and shares part of your life, their life with you. Be a servant of all is one who visits and calls and sends cards or letters to the sick or those in prison or those in jail. Be a servant of all is one who uses the gifts that God has given us to serve others. And we use those gifts to the best of our ability. If it's to lead, it's to lead. If it's to follow, it's to follow. Whatever gift it is that he has given us, we use that gift to the best of our ability. To be a servant of all is to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and make donations or actually provide the services necessary for the poor. Be a servant of all is one who serves our country in the military or as a policeman or as a postman, but not only in that way, but as leaders or presidents or CEOs or workers. And that is all so important. So important that the CEOs or the presidents or the leaders, that they understand and they respect all the workers, and that the workers respect them, and that we all work together for the good and the glory of God. And that's the part that we always leave out, is how often do we think about what we're doing when we are serving others? Do we bring God into the picture? It is so important to bring God into the picture every day of what you're doing. Now, you don't think of it every time you're doing something, but if you can get into the habit of bringing God into it with you, because he is helping you to do what you're doing. He is the only one that can help you to be least of all and to be servant of all. And there's so many other ways that I could go through who is servant of all. I got a whole big list yet. I'm not going to go through all of them. We kind of get the idea. But also those who minister in our office. They are servant of all. Sometimes, they are the ones that they get the brunt of everything. And they're not around to get any of the glory or anything. They are truly the least of all and servant of all. They are truly following God's plan for each and every one of us. Today, I heard one of the server boys talking. He was elected to be the leader of the National Honor Society. What a great opportunity he has. Is he going to be a good leader? Is he going to profess the teachings of Jesus Christ? He may not go out and start reading off the 10 Commandments or something like that, but the way that we live is the way that we do it. That is the way that we are servant of all. As a leader, as a president, as a CEO, as a worker, as a slave, as whatever it happens to be that we are, rich or poor, Democrat, Republican, or whatever, male or woman, and I guess whatever. It all is important that what we do, we become the least and servant of all. So, what were you arguing about on your way? How was you arguing about on your way through life? What are you arguing about? Are you arguing the good fights that are very important to us, that we must stand up for? Or is it just some of the little things that really don't matter too much? Jesus wants his followers to have a new preoccupation. Not who is greatest, but how we can be of service to one another along the way as we travel through this life, entering into the kingdom of heaven.